When you think about design, what are the images that pop up in your head? Perhaps you think of beautiful, comfortable furniture, or maybe convenient tech tools that help you in your everyday life. Throughout its history, the design practice has evolved to address our current needs, focusing on making life better. This is often referred to as human-centered design. As a design consultant, I've been using this practice to design products, services, and strategies for companies big and small, from startups to multinationals around the globe. And I loved every moment of making a difference for people through design. But slowly, an uncomfortable feeling crept upon me. The human-centered design approach wasn't always that great. In the bigger scheme of things, human-centered design was sometimes seriously harmful. Now, did any of you think of this when I said design? Polluted cities, climate breakdown, oceans filled with plastic? Anyone? I started to realize that human-centered design was part of the problem. Some years ago, I set out to improve online purchase delivery. I talked to a lot of online shoppers, learned about their positive and their negative experiences. Based on those insights, I envisioned a delivery experience with improved speed, control, and transparency. After implementing some of those solutions, customers were happier, the company was happy, and I was happy too. Things had been improved. This is, in essence, the human-centered design process used by many designers around the globe, and it has resulted in a wealth of beautiful, comfortable, convenient, and easy-to-use product services and digital solutions. However, because we focus on one chosen user type and their current needs, we risk designing solutions that have negative impact on the greater system they're part of, on other people, on society, and on our ecosystems. Did you know that when you choose the express delivery option at checkout, it comes with some negative side effects? Since packages are delivered immediately instead of waiting for trucks to fill up, we get more truck traffic and emissions. And this is bad news, both for our climate and for all of us who are exposed to this increased air pollution. There are already 4.2 million people dying from ambient air pollution every year. We should be making things better, not worse. Now think about a nutritious snack, conveniently packaged in plastic, a healthy bite on the go. Again, an individual need is fulfilled, and I think we should be asking ourselves why it is that convenience and efficiency have become these norms that are so rarely questioned by designers and by people in general. Because that plastic packaging puts our ecosystems at serious risk. A staggering 32% of all plastic disposables leak into our nature. And 8 million tons of plastic enters our ocean every year. There, it disrupts marine ecosystems, kills wildlife, and ultimately ends up back on our dinner plates in the form of microplastics. Humanity is facing huge and complex problems. Global warming is causing permanent damage to our Earth systems, and we are currently using up 1.75 times the ecological resources that our Earth can regenerate, while the people in the countries contributing the least to this mess are the ones hit the hardest by its effects. And I find these enormous systemic challenges that we as humanity have created really, really scary. And I used to think there wasn't that much I could do about them. It wasn't within my sphere of influence. And maybe you have felt this too. In the face of huge challenges surrounding climate, environment, and equity, what difference can I make as one person? I realized I could make a difference. Design could help me make a difference. I just needed to reframe my sphere of influence. It could be much bigger than I had thought. I could design with a systems perspective, taking the relationship between user, solution, society, and ecosystems into account. We need to evolve the design practice from human-centered design to humanity-centered design. We need to design a future that works not just for select groups of people, but for all of us, including future generations. A future that also works for this beautiful planet we live on, the fascinating beings we share it with, and its intricate ecosystems, which we cannot outsmart, which we are utterly dependent on for our survival as a species. This realization propelled me into starting a new chapter in my career at the beginning of this year. I'm now an independent designer on a mission to accelerate sustainable change through design and systems thinking. I now work on some design problems that are open-ended, complex, and messy, figuratively and literally, such as how we can turn our human waste products into new resources, and how we can design out plastic packaging waste. Because that 8 million tons of plastic that enters our ocean every year adds to an estimated 150 million tons of plastic already there. By 2050, there could be more plastic than fish in our seas at the current speed of pollution. And this is why I find food packaging such an incredibly important and interesting area to work in. And since it's so complex, it's also the perfect illustration for how to go about humanity-centered design. First, people. So after all, it's all of us who are buying all of this packaged food and beverages. And while all of us can make a huge difference through the choices we make, the things we choose to buy or not to buy, it should also just be easier to do the right thing. Now, if you're like me, you might already be trying to avoid packaging when possible, to buy the best available packaging, and to recycle it correctly. But making the best choices isn't always that simple. So are canned tomatoes better than those in a carton package, or vice versa? I can recycle the can, I can't recycle the carton, but still that metal can seem so much more impactful to produce. And what about my ketchup bottle? Am I supposed to rinse it thoroughly before recycling it? Or am I wasting water if it gets cleaned anyways in the process? We need to design away complexity here by making the best thing to do also the most obvious and the most simple thing to do. Next, systems. Because food packaging is one puzzle piece in creating sustainable food handling systems. Shelf life and food waste is another. So the shelf life of some foods, like cucumbers, is dramatically reduced without packaging. And this leads to another huge systemic challenge, food waste. A third of the food that we produce goes to waste. While other foods can do perfectly without packaging. For the packaging we do use, we need to make sure that it is designed, that it's optimized to be recycled in existing recycling systems, while pushing boundaries to improve those systems. We can also design new product service systems. So companies are now experimenting with subscriptions where reusable packaging gets filled up at your front door. So here, the goal to design out waste to create a circular offering becomes this lens for innovation that leads to new business models and services with clear benefits for people. So zero waste and convenience. What's not to like? We can also apply non-fossil fuel-based materials, like bioplastics, which saves us from damaging oil extraction. But these have come with some systemic challenges. This brings us to unintended consequences. Because even if bioplastics are made from a renewable resource, they're not always biodegradable. And even the ones that are biodegradable are not always biodegradable in nature or in your home compost. They require an industrial composting facility to decompose. So that's really complex, right? And now think about how that terminology, bio-based, bioplastic, biodegradable, easily might make one think, okay, to throw out in nature, which it really is not Because in nature, in our oceans, bioplastics cause the same undesired effects as fossil fuel-based plastics. In addition, bioplastics are often made from food crops, like corn, crops that we need to feed a growing number of people on Earth. But there are exciting new developments. So there are also biomaterials being made from food production waste, and edible packaging even being produced from seaweed. The bottom line is, humanity-centered design is never done. We need to continuously monitor our solutions for unintended consequences they might be having on a systems level. Design can't solve all of these complex problems we face as humanity, not alone. We have to do it together, all humans on this planet. Design does have an essential role to play, because after all, it's the design process that makes all the products and services that we all use come alive. Designers are also experts in envisioning better futures, gathering the perspectives of many different stakeholders, and transform visions into tangible joint actions. And this is what we need. Designers need to start designing with a humanity-centered approach, and we can't do that alone. We have to do that together with others, with elected officials, company leaders, environmental scientists, business strategists, engineers, economists, and many, many more. We need to forge new alliances. And since we are facing an unprecedented web of interconnected problems, that is going to be complicated and hard. We simply don't have the blueprints for how to do this. But we can't close our eyes to this complex reality we are facing. We can't keep designing for individual needs only when there are such pressing collective needs that need to be met. We have both the responsibility and a fantastic opportunity to rethink what we can do with design, to redesign design. And the design practice has evolved before to address our current needs. Now it needs to evolve again. Now it needs to adopt a systems perspective. We don't have the blueprints for how to do this, but we can start prototyping today. And step by step, we can design a future that works for all of us, for all of humanity. Thank you.